This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised. Good morning from a chilly but very crisp and pleasant dawn here on the western fringes of the Great Limpopo Transfrontier Park. That is a herd of Wildebeest. They are huddling for warmth and they're in a clearing hoping to evade predators. There they stand, and it's marvellous to have you here with WildEarth on a very live safari. So I say it's a relatively cold morning today. It's probably sitting at around 12 degrees Celsius, which for us is absolutely frigid, but don't worry, we'll cope. No frostbite. There is danger of. There is no danger of frostbite. There we are. Gorgeous little Wildebeest herd there. My name is James Henry. Hello. BK is on camera. That's his thumb. And we'll be the only vehicle out from Djuma today because Rusty is having a sleep in. She's the other car. This is Wendy. We will be joined by Tswalu once the sun gets out of bed that side of the country. No doubt by Phinda down in northern Maputo land as well. Ngala to the north of us. And Pride lands to the west of us, both in the lowveld of South Africa, which sits around about 400 metres above sea level. That's where we are now. That's why it's called the lowveld or the lowlands. And in fact, most of our wildlife areas are in these low-lying regions. Kalahari is an exception. Hyena calling in the distance. I think our plan today will probably be to pop down towards the hyena den, see what's going on there. There was some very exciting news last night that Lauren told me. It seems that Corky the hyena, who many of you will know as the ex-matriarch of the Djuma clan, may have given birth to another cub, which is just fascinating. So we'll pop down there and see what we can find out, and then we'll head east on the endless quest for Thandi and her cub. Thandi's a leopard, by the way, in case you were wondering. I don't know what that wildebeest's name is. Looks like a Gerald or a Barnaby, something like that. Now, please do talk to us, of course, using the hashtag WildEarth. That's going to be a little bit later. Remember, we are in kids session right now, so you can talk to us using the email address kidsquestions@wildearth.tv, and that is for people under the ages of 18. Ideally, if you could hold off asking your questions if you're older than 18 and not pretend to be under the age of 18. Gosh, my words are just not coming out today. Let's move on, BK. Let's go and see if we can find the hyenas that are calling and get our morning off. Whoops. To an auspicious predatory start, if I can drive the car properly. My apologies for my absence yesterday. I'm afraid Rusty gave up. It wasn't my fault this time. The previous 2 days I bent the steering rod. That was definitely my fault. Yesterday it was not my fault. We were driving along the road and it simply cut out, stopped functioning. And so I was unable to take any part in the morning drive or the evening drive. Lauren has now got a little morning off. And I'm sure she is gratefully snoozing in a warm bed right now, although I'm pretty sure she'd quite like to see those hyenas. We'll hand them straight back over to her once we're both back out again. The sun hasn't come up yet, but there's some nice light, nice soft diffused pastel light casting over the lowveld. All right, let's have a quick look at that bird. It's a virtual starling. Can you see it there? It's on top of the tree. Top one, you're on it. Middle of your frame. That's it. Virtual starling.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to andBeyond Ngala. It's a very nice freezing morning. My name is Bunny. I have Owen behind me with the camera. So this morning's drive is live and the questions are open for everyone. Welcome to send your questions to WildEarth.tv. As we speak, I think I just spotted a leopard, if not a lion, right across the water hole here on a distance, which is quite big, maybe a lioness. I'm not 100% sure what it is. So we're going to try and quickly go there and have a close-up look, and we'll update you in a short while. It is going to be an exciting morning. The Birmingham Pride tracks we haven't been seen yet. I don't know if that is part of the Pride or it could be a completely different line. And I can't see you. And yeah, the line is slightly, go slightly to your left. Oh, yeah, it disappeared back there. So yeah, we're going to quickly do that and see, we'll keep you updated and see what this line is up, it's on about. Okay, I'm going to reverse. Oh, I don't want to lose that thing. Yeah, I'll check now. I just want to quickly reverse so I see where I'm going. So we're gonna go back around just on the edge of this water hole here to try and see if we can get to where that line is going. It will be interesting on this portion of the property where we are. The territories of two different prides overlap, which is the Birmingham Pride and another pride, which you don't commonly see these days, called the Tswalu Pride. Ooh, they killed a hyena here last night. Look at that, oh. So these lions might have walked this area on in the night, just spotted a hyena that has been killed, possibly by these lions. We're not going to stay too long here, otherwise we're going to lose those other lions. We're going to try and catch up with them. We'll bring you back to this hyena later on to have a close look as to what might have happened to him, but definitely the lions would have been the culprits of this. So, hang on. So we saw that lion coming this way. Oh, that's helped me look. My earphone is out, so let me know if I'm still alive or not. That thing was coming this way, but on the drainage line down there. Okay, so we're going to carry on searching for these lines here, see what we can get, and we'll keep you updated.
Good morning, everyone. This morning, we're just out searching for some lions. Out looking for some lions, and we came across to check that last place where that pride was last night, and we're just checking around the water here, and no sign of them yet, but the morning is still very young, so we got lots of time. Now, there was a pride of lions here last night feeding on a very old Wildebeest carcass. I'm sure some of you saw that. There wasn't a lot left on it, which means I'm sure they finished it, and they must have moved off. Anyway, I forgot to mention, sorry, my name is Clive, and behind the camera today we have Marcel, as usual. Always forget that part, to actually introduce myself. You guys must be watching and never know who this guy is. Alright, so these lions are definitely not here, so they've definitely moved off, which is good for us. Now we have a tracking mission on our hands, which is always fun, to find tracks and start following them in the direction they go, and hopefully find the lions at the end of that. I think, when they've eaten something big, like a wildebeest had very big full bellies last night, which means they're probably not going to move too far. They might want to go to like a nice open area somewhere and just lie down and digest all that meat. Now, our airstrip is just over there. Our airstrip is just over there, and I think that's possibly a good place that they might have gone to rest. So, we are going to go straight there.
Hello everybody. We have come to the hyena den where there are some hyenas, which is convenient. I don't see any bebes at this stage. I do smell a rotting carcass of some description. I don't know what it is. I think that's about the best we're going to get, BK, if that's all right. Is that okay? Yeah? So, who have we here? I don't know that I would even recognize Corky these days. It's been so long since I saw her. Ribbon I would, because she's got a B cut out of her right ear. Is it her right ear? Yes, it's her right ear. There are 3 hyenas here. This one, the one at the entrance to the den, and then there's one flat in the grass there, BK. You can just see its fat belly sticking out. I suspect that it ate whatever is stinking around here. Oh, there's a 4th one. Suckling, look. That must be Ribbon. Must be her left ear then that is a B. Yes, those are the little ones. Is that right? Yep. Look, they've lost their black mantles. I haven't seen these things for 6 weeks now. Oh, sweet. Now, if anybody would like to help me identify what's going on here, you're welcome to do so. I'd love to hear from you. And apparently, sorry, I made a bit of a mistake. Everyone can ask questions now or send comments. It's not only kids. So I'm sorry about that. You can do that on #WildEarth. And you can also use the comments section in our whatever format you're watching on YouTube or Twitch. I think we're still going to Twitch. So apparently it is ribbon lying on the ground there. Thank you for that. And that's Ndebele and another one. Ndebele is the one standing up as far as I understand. This is an interesting little display of play, dominance at the same time. Phew, but I must tell you, the smell around here is profound in its foulness. So I don't know where Corky is. We're just going to wait and see what happens here. I'm not going anywhere from here just yet.
Yeah, morning, Bruce. Go ahead. Can you okay if we approach the lodge to have a look at those telemarties?
Sorry, it's the Game Drive radio. I just need to turn it down. Gorgeous light now as the sun slowly comes up. No, Hayden, it's most likely not the mother. No, it's definitely not the mother and father together. The mother and father don't operate together in the hyena clans. The father is probably still in the clan, but he won't hang around the den or play any part in raising the youngsters. So although he'll be here, or be in the territory, he won't be the father. He won't be here. We think the father of these chaps could probably be a hyena called Comet. He does tend to spend a bit of time around here. That's pure hearsay. We don't know that for sure by any stretch. So we've got Ndebele and Sutu. Those were the other two younger hyenas. Ndebele, the one that's now lying over yonder. That's it. And then Sutu went off towards the risen sun. Ooh, I can hear the crunching of bairns. So I think that Sutu is sitting at whatever disgusting carcass is lying around here. BK, do you remember that grey-headed bushwhack we saw yesterday? There's one that's landed right next to us. Beautiful bird. It's orange breast, green back, yellow front, and grey head. Can you see him there? I can still, I don't know if you might be able to get him. He's just on the bush behind this. He's in the open for me, but I'm not sure he's in the open for you.
Can you put it on the screen?
I can't actually. He's there. He's round about there. There.
Oh, yes, sir.
That's all right.
Oh, it flew off.
We had him briefly. Nice colours, especially in the morning. See, the horizon's changed. Lovely, quiet morning. Typical winter start to the day. So everyone is fast asleep still. I think I'm pretty sure that it's this den that they saw Corky at, but I'm And I'm pretty sure that's why Ndebele was at the entrance to the den. Ashley, no, it's definitely not the only matriarch, only the matriarch mates in the Hyena clan, which of course is slightly counterintuitive if you know anything about wolf packs or wild dog packs. Now, hyenas obviously are not dogs, and their social structure is completely distinct from dog social structure, in so much as all the females in the clan can mate. And so, quite often, we'd probably call this the natal or central den now, because this is where the matriarch's got her cubs, and quite possibly another hyena called Corky has her cub here. And then lower ranking females would normally give birth at another den, at a satellite den, and then when their cubs are big enough, they'll bring them in to the central den when they're large enough not to be bullied too much. If that makes sense.
So we have found some lovely buffaloes enjoying this sparse sicklebush clearing, wandering through. They've just woken up. We've also just woken up, and they're probably enjoying the sunlight falling on the side of this little clearing. It's quite a difficult view. They're very well camouflaged for large animals. Welcome to Pridelands. I'm Mike Anderson, and behind the camera is Gert, as always. We are glad to have you here, and we're going to be showing you whatever we can find here on Pridelands Conservancy. But for the moment, we're just enjoying this beautiful, beautiful sunrise. It's golden glow. I'm sure you can see it on my face. And the buffaloes are moving just towards a drainage line, which is a low area full of some greener vegetation. This is an old buffalo. Look at him. He's almost getting bald, especially around his bum. And you can see his face has got a lot of fur missing, but his horns are big and strong. And that you can tell is an old buffalo, not only because he's losing his hair, as a lot of old men do, but also because his horns, the boss, is very shiny. And when they get very shiny, the more they rub against stuff. And he's had a lot of years to rub against things. Although interesting, he's probably only about 15 years old, which doesn't seem very old, but when you have to spend your life fighting with lions and finding food and racing around, chasing after the herds, it'll be enough to turn anyone grey. He's just wandering nose down to the ground, sniffing out any of the tasty leaves and grasses which might be left. Oh, it's almost disappeared. Amazing for an this buffalo probably weighs about 800 kilograms. And behind those bushes, it might as well just be a rock. Sometimes when we're driving on safari, people see things and we just say, oh, no, it was just a buffalo log. Because they're so well camouflaged. Big, strong buffalo bums. Speaking of buffaloes, there are some buffalo weaver nests in the tree just up above us, which is quite interesting. So if you see just up there, there's a big clump of twigs. Now that's not where giraffes have stored their food for the winter. That is a nest, probably from some red-billed buffalo weavers. So the red-billed buffalo weavers are already out this morning. We've seen them twittering about leaving their nests, heading out to find some delicious food. Remember, at night time, all the birds are sleeping. During the day, during the morning, especially now, they might even actually just be sitting on the tops of the trees around here, trying to warm up, puffing out their feathers. I've got my 2 jackets on, but I still feel very, very cold. It must be difficult if you're a bird. Imagine. This morning was about 10 degrees. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit, but I can assure you it is very cold. Isn't that light wonderful? Golden. I wonder if giraffes ever do feed from these little twiggy nests. That would be awkward. Awkward for the birds, not for the giraffe. Such a beautiful morning light this morning. It's actually a morning filled with excitement for us because we heard a lot of hyenas calling from our camp, and we went to check it out, and we found the remains of something that the hyenas had eaten, but the hyenas themselves were moving off. The action was over. Joy in Hong Kong has asked why they're called buffalo weavers. That is a great question, Joy, and I suppose it's probably because they're quite a lot larger and their bill is quite a lot heavier. That's the beak. Is a lot heavier than most of the weavers. So the buffalo weavers, I think, are named because of the fact they're much larger. Well, buffaloes are larger than most animals, so it would make sense that buffalo weavers are larger than most of the other weavers. We get lots of different types of weavers, golden weavers and brown weavers, and these ones are very, very dark. Maybe the color is also to do with the fact that they're called buffalo weavers because they're black in color, just like the buffalo's fur. That's a good question, Joy. I wonder if you get any weavers in Hong Kong or around Hong Kong. It'd be good if you could let us know. Oh, we're going to enjoy this beautiful clearing and listen out for anything that might be stalking through the bushes.
So we just recently found a Birmingham Pride. It looks like the two roast males have returned with the Pride, and they were successful last night. They killed something in the thick bush there. One of the roast males is finishing up and has dominated everybody else out of the situation, and his other brother has already had his full belly and is lying on the side. So this area has been very active last night. It's in the water hole, so a majority of the animals will have come to drink. But there it looks like there's been so serious commotion going on here, as I pointed out earlier on as we come up, about that one hyena that has been killed, and then now there is a second one in the scene as well that's also been killed by these lions last night. So majority of the pride looks quite full, so it must have been something big between either a wildebeest or a zebra, but we can't see it clearly for sure in that thick bush there. That roast male is not going to let us anywhere close to that. Is the grumpy one. So they've done a great job for themselves for last night. So right now they're just going to sleep it off. They're not too far from the water hole, so they don't have to walk far at all for a drink. Who we have not seen since we get here now is the young male. So it looks like we saw tracks of another male lion on the way down here. It could have been him. But what might have happened is when the roast male comes in, they would have tried to chase him off again. So he enjoyed just 1 or 2 days with the rest of the pride when the roast males were not here. And now they're back and he has to be out and about. It will be interesting to find out where he is. But it will take a while before we find out. The big roast male stands up in the thick bush there. He might move home whatever is left of that carcass. Let's have a closer look. It looks dark in color, so I'll go more with the wildebeest. Right now he is left alone in that thick bush. He's dominated everybody out of the scene. Look at how some of the sub-adult cubs are walking across towards where the rest of the pride is. Butterfly, normally predators, the general rule is that predators don't eat each other. So lions, looking at the fact that they've got something else to feed on here, they're definitely not going to feed on that hyena carcass. Saying that, every now and again you find very strange situation where lions kill a hyena and you think that they're not going to eat it, and you find that they end up doing. But this time around, with the fact that they've got full bellies, I don't think they will do that. However, we haven't seen vultures yet because this kill was killed last night sometimes. But when the vultures see this carcass and they come start landing, when the lions move on, they are the ones that are most likely to feed on that hyena carcass. Look at that old lioness there, full belly, slipping it off. And as you look past her, further on a distance, you can see the dead hyena lying on the side there. And on the background of that, what you see is the water hole that's still looking quite misty. I must say it's still quite cold this morning down here. When we left camp, it was about 4 degrees, but since we got here, it feels like it's slowly but surely starting to warm up. But it's not time to take the jacket off yet. Safari Kitty, it is quite a big hyena, but with hyenas, and both of them that have been killed, they are adult hyenas. But sometimes hyenas push their boundaries too much and they get slightly too close to the pride, in particular when they're feeding, because they're trying to irritate them so they can steal from them. Every now and again they will do it and they successfully will steal the carcass, but this time backfired badly on their side. So if there is a hyena that was with these two that has been killed here that survived and managed to escape, he will possibly not try to take another chance in the next while because he will have seen how dangerous it can become. However, over time they'll forget and something like this will happen again. It is quite strange. Barbarian pride is quite a big pride. It's not often that you find that they kill more than 2 hyenas at a time, because once one get caught, then all need to gang up and try and kill that particular one. And this time around they managed to kill 2, so they must have splitted themselves and chased different hyenas at the same time. Look at that lioness enjoying the nice sun that's starting to come up. Full belly, warming up slightly, but not doing much at all. Look at that white young male. He managed to escape with a piece from where? You can see definitely with the fight between hyenas and lions would have been quite loud. Unfortunately, we're too far from any of our lodges from where we are in this water hole, so we didn't hear much. But yeah, if you were close by, maybe sleeping in a tent right close to this area, it would have kept you awake for most of the night for sure. So what we're gonna do, because this pride has split it up all over around, we're gonna try and position and see if we can get another angle. Some of them are quite active on the other side and see what they're up to.
Slightly disappointingly, very little has been going on here. We've had a bit of movement from Ndebele, who's walked up. I think it's it's probably Sutu who's returned from whatever carcass is stinking out this place. We'll probably go and have just a quick look at it now, see if we can find what it is that's making the place smell like a, well, morgue with the fridge turned off. But otherwise, we haven't had any sign of Corky, who was the old matriarch, or a new cub. So I think we're probably going to sit here another, I don't know, 10 to 20 minutes before we press on. This is my first visit to this den for a long time. Tell you what, let's go and do that now. Let's go and see if we can see what they were eating, because these little baby cubs don't seem to be wanting to get up to do anything particularly entertaining. Not going to school just yet. Not doing their morning exercises. Oh, are they? No. Could they be? Ribbon, are you going to turn all the way over? No. No. Okay. It's just keep moving. It's just behind this clump of bushes. I'm going to have to go past without, so that I don't make it a kind of noisy. Oh, goodness gracious. Wild hyena. Hyena cubs can suckle from their mothers, depending on what you read, anything from 6 months to 2 years. I've not seen a hyena cub older than 8 months to a year suckling, so I would probably say between 6 months and a year, depending on the rank, depending on the mother, and depending on how much else there is to eat. Elephants have made it very difficult to maneuver through here. Crunch, crunch. Yes, naturally the babies are now playing. Rhiannon, it looks like that they do share a den, yes. Corky and Ribbon. So, yeah, it's probably quite likely. But I don't know if this cub of Corky's is brand new. There's whatever it is. Or if, you know, it was born at a peripheral den and then was brought in here. This is where we heard the crunching. Hey, BK? Yes, it's an impala horn. You see that? The cubs are now out and about and playing, so I'm going to have a quick look. Impala horn, very exciting. Let's just quickly move into a position where we can get a better view of them. I think we'll probably not try and backlight them anymore, so we'll get in sideways. Oh, there's quite a lot of fun playing going on now. How's that, BK? It's all right? And don't get back to your invisible suckling now. Let's have some playtime. Oh, now here comes another one. Another female. Could that be Corky? Hello, Adrian and Luca. We think that the gender of the cubs is one male and one female, but we are not sure. Is this Corky? This is Corky. Definitely a female. Is it her? No, I don't think her ear's mangled enough. I can't recognize her. Maybe it is. Let's see what happens. See how the little cubs disappeared back down into the den. That's a little male. The cub there that's just stuck out its equipment is a male. And the other one is also a male, I think. So that one that you can see is definitely a male. The other one wasn't quite so clear, but I would say also a male. So what is palpably a paler cub, that one is definitely paler, is most certainly a male. The other one, which is now in a greeting ceremony, yeah, it's also a male. It's definitely a male. Yes, Susan, the same goes for most animals, but I would agree with you. Hyenas are amazing animals, especially when they are not sleeping. So, 2 males we have here. And you can see that by the pinched end to their penises. Female pseudopenis does not have a pinched end, much like the adult female that just walked in here and has now walked off. Oh, we've got a bit of activity. Greeting, saying hello. All pretty silent at this stage. Yes, Jetpack boy, she does look pregnant again. She isn't, of course, but I know what you mean. It looks very fat. Can you see right there, PK? I can move forward slightly if you want me to. You're right. Has anyone managed to identify the hyena that came in, the female? I can see her. She's lying down a way off, just beyond the den. Was Comet. Michael, are you sure that that was Comet coming through? All right. I mistook the dangly bits for a female's, I suspect because they weren't fully out. But thank you, Michael. You say it wasn't a female, it was Comet. Now, for those of you who are wondering, the likes of Michael Fleetwood and James Richard and Judy H. on the vegetation side are very, very seldom wrong, so if ever. So I'm going to take Michael Fleetwood's word for it on the identity of that hyena. I think he's a high-ranking male. I think that's probably why they're skedaddled inside. Michelle, in the hierarchy, they will... It depends what happens with them. They'll occupy a fairly high stratum of the male hierarchy in the clan. Remember that just about all the males are subordinate to all the females, just about, not always the case. Remember, everything that I say around something like this, there are infinite numbers of variations. Let me move forward, BK. See if I can just get you in a better position there. And so one might be slightly more dominant than the other, but I don't know how firm that dominance will be, or if it will be fairly fluid. I suspect it will be fairly fluid. How's that? Yeah? Okay, I'm going to stop there because Ribbon's going to get a fright. But what will most likely happen is that they will leave the clan when they get older. And then I don't know if they will join the same clan or if they'll go off and join different clans. And that'll be very interesting to see, if we're around to see it, of course. Because it's most likely that they will disperse away from an area where we are, where we're able to see them. Good fun wrestling going on.
So one of the Ross males have finally decided that he's got a full belly and he moved off to go lie down somewhere. And the competition from the cubs, they just all flashed in, and it's a first come, first serve basis. And this young female white T1 here has been feeding. And the others, even the adult females, came close by to try and want to have a piece, since it looks like the Ross males took it before they all get involved. And he just started growling, and they all have respected that, because if they come closer, he will definitely not hold back. He will fight them for it. So you can see some of the females are not too far from where she is, but they are just hanging back there. By looking at the size of the ribs, it wasn't a fully grown wildebeest. It must have been a sub-adult. The ribs are not looking too big. So looking at the fact that most of them were full-bellied, they could have had multiple stuff, maybe another impala or something, because when we get here, some of them were finishing up some other bits and pieces from the other sides. So you can see this young female didn't look like she had much at all earlier on, but finally she got an opportunity. So she's getting almost everything she can. We can see how she's trying hard to get most of the meat out of the spine there. And we've been watching her taking a lick at the ribs, slowly but surely, trying to get all the meat she has. But you can see those ribs are sticking up. It doesn't look like they will be able to chew those, because those are quite nice thick bones. They've chewed them from the top. But of course, it might lie down here for a while, because with these two dead hyenas around, I don't think the hyenas are making a trip here anytime soon. So while we sit and wait, we can every now and again hear the hippos from the distance, but it doesn't sound like they're thinking of making their way here, because the sound just starts, we hear the sounds going further and further away. So it looks like they learned their lesson for now. Look at how gently she is. She doesn't want to move around this carcass this much, because the more she try and drag it out of there, she will get a little bit more challenge. You can hear the growl from the other young female that's busy nibbling on some small pieces next to where she is. Every time the carcass move, look at that. Another member has come. Look at how she's protecting that and moving it away completely. So with that move, you hear the squabble. Most of them started getting active and they want to get involved. But while she's sitting down and protecting it, they seem to shy away, because they don't see an angle maybe of where to go in. So a brother white one here has arrived sniffing around. He had his piece on the other side, which looked like a head that he was busy finishing up on. His belly is looking full, but it looks like he could do with getting a little bit more. This guy has grown way too quickly for my liking. It's like yesterday when they were all young cubs, and today he's got his mane. He's already over 2 years old, and it looks like he's gonna be a beast. Hyena, we haven't seen any sort of scars in any of them, but sometimes they will injure each other. However, what they do try and do when they're fighting amongst each other, I don't know if you know, that lion claws are fully retractable. So instead of sticking their sharp claws out when they fight against each other, they leave them inside so that they hit each other with just a paw, but not to hurt each other. However, when they were possibly trying to kill the hyena, they went all out. That's why they managed to kill them. So every now and again, they get angry with each other and they will scratch one another on the face. But majority of the time, it's a gentle smack to try and just make the other one move back. So it doesn't look like there's any big injuries. Also, the fact that they respect each other. If they tried to push too hard when one of the roast males was feeding, that boy will definitely hurt some of them when he tried to protect that carcass. But a little growl and a little smack on the head, it sends them back where they were to go sit down, and that's how most of these squabbles get resolved. Still quite slightly cold here. You can see where that young lioness is busy feeding. When she breathes, every now and again you see a little bit of a steam coming up. A little bit of a threat. Don't come next to me. This is my piece. And you see that, Kayalana? That one, after just a growl, they just move completely around and lie down somewhere. Of course, they would like to have a little bit more to feed, but that just does the work without having to hit each other on the head. So again, we're still missing the female with the smaller cubs. She's not with the pride. So hopefully she had some food where she is so that she can have milk for those young ones. But looking at how it looks like it was a serious competition here, even if the young ones were here, I doubt that they would have managed to get involved in that carcass at all. That's one thing. That's one thing, being a young lion cub that gets introduced into the pride of 15. It's such a difficult thing. If they kill something that's not too big, the actual competition, because the word share doesn't exist to be able to fight your way to get into the carcass. And sometimes it can become dangerous because they not really paying attention to see that it's a small one. They all just trying to get a space. So that is the challenge that those young ones are going to be facing when they are with the pride if they kill something small. So they are still in the steady spot, nicely scattered. The water hole is not too far, but maybe after finishing most of this, they might think of going down to drink. We're going to stick around and see what is going to happen, because as it starts warming up, most of the animals might be thinking of coming down, but I think that's going to be a challenge for the day for them. It will be interesting to see, so let's wait.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
Some lovely play behaviour here between the two very young ones and the two youngish ones. Mum is having some well-earned rest, not being harassed by the babies. Still no sign of Corky's arrival. It's so great when we get this kind of playing by young mammals, isn't it? It's done almost completely silently. You know, when lions play like this, they growl and make a big kind of, I don't know, ruckus. These guys are almost totally silent as they play, and I wonder if that doesn't have some kind of sort of anti-predator attraction reason to it. You know, if lions heard them making a noise and playing, lions would come through. Yeah, Arlar, where you say those teeth, well, I mean, even at this age, it's quite spectacular, isn't it? How impressive their teeth are. I will let you know that while you were gone, one of them let fly. And I'm very glad I wasn't close by or downwind, because whatever came out of that hyena, given the smell of the carcass around here, I can only imagine this was orders of magnitude worse. And so I'm very pleased I wasn't around to smell it. One of the very few mammals, of course, that's born with teeth. So Arlar, yes, although the teeth are fairly phenomenal now, I do feel a great deal of sympathy for the mother from the beginning. The process of suckling her young cannot be an easy one. In fact, the process of being a mother as a hyena at all, I think, is a fairly difficult one. From birth to suckling. I must say, I do find it fascinating how mammals, I mean, I'm assuming of all kinds, I don't know anything about marsupials or their play behavior, what goes on there, or with monotremes, so I don't know if duck-billed platypuses play in the same sort of way. But it amazes me that they have such good judgment over when to be rough and when to be gentle and how to be gentle. And I mean, a great example of that is a dog. If you're playing with a dog and, you know, you're sort of roughhousing with the dog and wrestling with it, it knows how hard to bite you without breaking the skin most of the time. And, you know, it knows how to bite in a playful manner. And I imagine it's able to bite other dogs harder than it can bite you as a human being. But it understands very quickly how hard it can bite a human being without causing pain, so that it's still a fun game. And it amazes me that we're watching here, these two younger hyenas are being pretty rough with the youngest ones, but there's no pain being inflicted, as far as we can tell. I mean, there's probably the odd nip, which will just enforce a bit of dominance, but there's nothing that's kind of aggressive about it. And yet it's the same tools that they will use when they are hunting and killing. And I don't know why I find that fascinating, but I do. That animals are able to judge how rough and how gentle they can be with the very same tools they use to kill and maim. I suppose the other thing it suggests is that they are also able to discern what violence is, what it does. If you know what I mean. So they have an implicit understanding of the aims of when they use their teeth in their mouths and that sort of thing. None of this, I don't think, is conscious. I'm sure it's all almost entirely unconscious, in the same way that we humans know how to be gentle with youngsters. immediately. You know exactly how hard you can play punch a person smaller than you, or how rough, you know, I have two little nephews who attack me constantly, and you know exactly, there's an instinctual knowledge immediately as to how rough you can be with them without it being painful. They have no such instinctual knowledge, of course. They have to learn that. Maybe it is learned then. Maybe they learn it when they're growing up. That's probably quite a good thought. When I think about my nephews, absolutely zero filter as to how violent they are with me. Something interesting going on here, PK. There's another, that's Comet who's just got up. There's another hyena walking at the back and coming sort of towards us this way. Here we go. Comet's going to meet that hyena. There's a bit of a greeting ceremony going on. I don't know who that is. The little baby's picked up that there's another one approaching. And now it seems to be leaving. I was really rather hoping that this would be where Corky has her youngster, if she does have one. I mean, I'm pretty sure that the reports would be accurate. Now this is the first time I've seen this. I don't know if you guys have seen this with Lauren before, but the approach of the little cub to the vehicle, they've overcome their fear, and slowly they're going to start coming to the car and eventually biting it.
Get yourselves over here sooner rather than later. Thanks, Bruce. I'm on my military boundary. I've checked to push back to a dance stand.
Good morning. It is such an exhilarating morning out here at Tswalu Kalahari. Jandre and myself, Dylan, it is just amazing having you with, and I know I keep saying that, but it really is. I'm super excited this morning. I have no idea why. Well, just we're out here. I mean, yeah, what more could I ask for? And again, like I say, probably something leading up to my excitement is the fact that we're doing these meerkats again, but every single day we spend here, every morning we spend here, it's getting closer and closer and closer to the time that these meerkat pups could come out. So I'm really hoping we're not quite near on the 2-week mark yet, but you never know if they come out a little bit early or not. It's just the most amazing morning out here, and it's so good having you all with us. Please feel free to ask us questions, chat with us, send things through. Let's see if we can answer them. Yeah, it's just a gorgeous day, eh? So beautiful. The meerkats aren't up yet. As you can see when Jandre panned there, the sun hasn't quite risen yet. Probably in about another 4 or 5 minutes, the sun will be over the horizon, and then the meerkats are going to start coming out. So there's been a lot of activity around the burrows. There's no sign of any predators. There's been a lot of giraffe through the area last night. I see there's some tracks around. There's springbuck tracks around. So there's been a lot of game activity, but nothing that would worry me in terms of the meerkat burrows themselves. So
that's good news. But I've just got a really good feeling about today, and not just specifically with regards to meerkats, but just generally. Just good to be out, good to be doing this. And I hope all of you are safe and warm and wherever you may be. So we're just scanning for any odds ears giraffe that went that way. Lots of meerkats tracks. That's unusual, imagine that. At the meerkat. Oh, there's the sun. The sun's just come up. Look at that. And those beams of light through that valley. Makes me want to write something. But I'll spare everyone the horror of that. Angela's getting on board now. Angela's just asked, which den or which burrow do I think the meerkats are going to come out of? Well, actually this morning, Jeandre, Veronique and myself, we haven't even chosen yet. But I think that one that is framed on there now is almost certainly going to be the winner. I think that's the one that they've been coming out every morning. So unless she's shifted the pups into one of these other holes at this burrow system, which is a possibility, you know. But my guess is that one that Jeandre initially had in frame.
So look at that big roast male that is hugged the carcass the whole time there to our right. Okay, we're off there. So you see, if you look at that big roast male there lying on the side, he's taken almost 3/4 of that carcass by himself. He's so full right now. You can see it looks like he's even struggling to breathe. See how he's taking slow, deep breath after such, ingesting most of the carcass. Even his other brother doesn't look as full as he is. The other brother has been lying on that position since we got here. He must have tried to push too close earlier on and get dominated, and he never went back. Maybe he got a little bit of a hard smack there. He's been quite inquisitive about looking towards the water hole every now and again. The hippo says something, his head is up and he's looking that way. It's not lying too far from where that dead hyena is, so maybe he might have last seen another hyena run on that direction and he wants to finish the job should that one come back. He's looking around, he's not completely asleep, he's not as tired or full as his brother is looking right now. Looks like something is catching his attention. He's taking a dip. It looks like he's trying to focus. I can't see what he's looking at, but I wouldn't be surprised. This water hole is quite busy. Animals are going to start coming down. First, well, after such a meal that they have early this morning, yeah, they are looking quite happy cats. This particular line we're looking at right now is normally quite grumpy, but today he hasn't shown us attitude. He's been minding his own business. So maybe having a little bit of food put him in a good mood. Oh, he's not resting, he's looking around. He's definitely still suspecting to see something down there. Erica, the hyena is most likely to be eaten by the vultures. Of course, I've seen hyena feed on each other if the one is dead. But in this area, because of the lions being here, those that are close by and maybe experienced a commotion, I don't think they'll come back anytime soon. They will have run as far as they could to try and stay away from this dangerous area here. There is not much of this carcass left, but all the young ones are nibbling on whatever they can get from the little bones that the big males have left behind. And looking at the cubs, some of them, their bellies are not really looking as full, but it does look like they also managed to get a little bit. So now they're still competing for that little bone that's left with no meat at all. But the competition never stops. As long as they can get whatever tiny bit they can, they'll still fight for it. I hear the sound of a hippo calling in the background. Got a little bit of attention from the old lioness. She managed to pick her head up and look slightly, whereas the rose male cannot be bothered by anything right now. I think his belly might be quite sore. He's just worried about trying to digest that food as quickly as possible. If you look closely onto his back legs, you can see he's got some few scars on the back there. But it looks like he might have encountered those running away from whoever was trying to give him a beating. Look at how dark at the back of his legs are at the moment. So that's a sign of him being a dominant male, because when they scent mark scratch the back feet on the ground and urinate, and over the time of the urine that's dripping through their back legs down onto the ground, it creates that black stain that you see roughly on the back, under the back of his legs. If you find young male lions that are young enough and they haven't marked territory as much, they don't often have those black stains at the back of the legs. It's only the dominant males that has it. Everything is quieting down. The rose male looks like he's finally sleeping, and he changes his mind. Just pick his head up as I say that. I would like to know what's going on in his brain right now, how he sat on that very same path and just stare on the same direction. Dylan, not at all. The white line is just a fur that's white, but everything else at the fur it's as hard as the normal color line. And of course, if the white line feels hot, like all the other lines, will just go into the shade. So the sun doesn't really do much at all to the white line. So Dylan, I don't know if you know the story about the white lines. because everything with the white line is exactly like that one of a normal line. So what it is that makes them look white is just a lack of pigmentation that they're supposed to give their fur the color. So everything that will affect a normal color line will affect a white line, but everything that a normal color line can survive and have no issues with, the white line will not have issues like that. One of few things that could be a disadvantage to a white line compared to a normal color line is the lack of camouflage when they're moving away or when they're trying to hunt, which that will be a lifelong disadvantage for them. But the biggest thing that would have affected them when they're young is because they don't camouflage as well. When the adults are not there and they've left them to go hunting, if another predator would have walked by, even when a normal color line would have camouflaged better, the white one would have stands out, and then that could have get their life into danger. But fortunately for this pride, they're slowly but surely coming out of that stage. So they're following the pride everywhere they go. So the only time that is going to become a problem now is when they're hunting, where they stick out and they'll ruin most of their hunts that they're going to try and participate on. So the rose male that we've been talking about, that he hasn't changed position, it looks like he was concentrating on something on the direction he was looking on. Looks like he's finally decided to completely lie down as his brother has done earlier on. And I think that he's possibly going to be in that position for a very, very long time, because he's already got his nice shady spot. So he is most likely not going to do much for most of the day. Of course, when the sun eventually catches up with him where he is, I think all it's going to take from him with that full belly will just be to roll into a much more better shady spot. One thing that might get him up is to go down and drink. However, this waterhole being such a busy waterhole, I doubt that they're going to have that much peace here. They might want to attempt hunting if they see other things coming down, which will make it difficult for the other animals to have their drink for the morning today. But their biggest worry will be elephants when elephants come down to drink. And elephants, of course, if they smell this dead hyena, smell this dead wildebeest or zebra, or they smell the lions themselves, they will investigate and try and chase these lions around, which I don't think these lions are going to like that much when they're trying to rest. So there is a chance that they're not going to be in this particular space in the afternoon. They might not move too far because their bellies are full. But right now it doesn't look like they're going to move that much until something comes down to disturb them. That beast looks seriously full, and it's not going to last at all on that position. Beyond is not a very common thing. However, when hyenas come, when lions have killed something, in particular if there is many lions involved, they're chasing each other. It's quite common, but hyenas are smart on keeping their distance in most cases. So of course the lions will chase for a little bit just to chase them off close to where they're feeding, and then go back to their normal feeding station. So it doesn't happen too common, but every now and again, hyenas like these two would have pushed a little bit too close, and they were not fast enough when the lions turned around and started ganging up on them. So yeah, we're gonna let the sleeping cat sleeps for most of the day down here. We're most likely to try and come back down in the afternoon to see what they've been up to, if they've been chased out of here or not. And we're gonna see what else we can find for you.
We are having the most wonderful, wonderful little view here of a white-throated robin, which is not common. I'm just going to be quiet so you can listen to him. Now he's doing two calls, both of them extremely accurate mimics. He's doing a red-faced mouse bird. He threw in a bit of drongo there, but he's also doing a brown-headed parrot. There. A tre-tre. It's a brilliant parrot rendition. Don't stop now, little bird. That's one of the most accurate mimics I've ever heard. The robins are supposed to be pretty good mimics, but most of them you can tell when it's a robin or the original bird. I actually thought there was a parrot in the top of that tree. I also thought there was a flock of red-faced mouse birds around. Very special. Don't know what that was. Bit of drongo, maybe. There's the parrot. He's brilliant. This is not a Natal robin, and it's mimicking other birds. So yes, most robins do mimic. Most robins are pretty good mimics. This is the best I've heard so far. The only thing I've heard do slightly more wide-ranging and accurate repertoire was a Sabota lark once, but it's so small that everything it did just sounded slightly too high-pitched. But this guy is very good. That tree was much more robinish. There's definitely some drongo thrown in there as well. And the drongo itself is a mimic. The drongo is to my mind, the least accurate mimic. Grant, we don't really know 100% for sure. there are two kind of basic schools of thought. One, which I think is much less favoured than others, is that what he's doing is making his territory sound full, and so mouse birds and parrots won't come in here and take potential food from him. But that doesn't really hold water, because those two bird species, the bird species that he is mimicking, don't eat what he eats. The drongo does, but that's the least of his mimicking. I think much more likely is that we're looking at a peacock's tail type of a scenario here, where birds that are able to mimic more calls than others tend to be more sexually successful than others that can't. And we definitely do see that. And I think the fact that he's sitting out here so prominently, making himself so obvious as he calls, is an indication that this is some kind of sexual display. It's a territorial display as well for other robins. I just don't really understand why it's happening at this time of the year, because I would have thought that the white-throated robin chat, of which I've seen only 2 on this particular reserve, I don't think that they breed in the winter. I mean, it would be very unusual if they did. I'll just check that up for you. September to January, yeah. October, November. That said, the Cape robins in Johannesburg, where I used to sit and sing on the garden tap throughout the winter. Territorial male sings at dawn and dusk year-round. There we go. So that's just a territorial male, but less intensely during post-breeding molt. Female also sings and mimics, but is silent during June and July, so that's definitely a male. And he's just maintaining his territory there, obviously. The other birds that he's been noted mimicking are white-faced whistling duck, lizard buzzard, common greenshank, brown-headed parrot, red-faced mouse bird, there we go, brown-headed kingfisher, European bee-eater, common scimitar, crowned hornbill, cardinal woodpecker, greater honey-guide, lesser-striped swallow, fork-tailed and square-tailed drongos, black-headed oriole, dark-capped bulbul, somber green bull, currican thrush, red-capped robin chat, white-browed scrub robin, willow warbler, long-billed crombeck, rattling cisticola, chin-spot batter, southern boo-boo, brew-brew, scarlet-chested sunbird, spectacled weaver, and yellow-fronted canary. Just in case you were wondering, I didn't remember that. I had to look it up.
Bruce,
I'm sure you're shocked.
On my side, just busy crossing the boundary now onto the fire break. The rest are all about 30 meters south
cool.
of the boundary. They're all staring at a herd of Wildebeest who are north of the fire break, so 200 meters away from them.
Sorry about the game drive radio. He's so good. Brain, a native bird does not preclude it being a migratory bird, so what we'd say is that this bird is a non-migratory bird, but many of the birds that arrive here would still be considered native in so much as they breed here. I don't think it's not a word we'd use actually with birds. We'd say they're either resident or visitors. And a resident is normally a bird that depends on who you are, but I quite like the system that Newman used to use. He used to say it was a summer resident, which meant that it was here only in summer and it would breed here. And if it was just a visitor, then you knew it bred somewhere else, and it just used to come here during the off-season. And then you just had a plain old resident, which is a bird like this, which lives here and never migrates. And most of the robins, in fact, all of the robins are those.
Have you talked to Dad already?
No, negative. We on the boundary on Monday the 2
Right, welcome back to andBeyond Phinda Private Game Reserve, everyone. And we're going from robins to a different type of bird. And around this water here are a lot of different types of water birds. So up in the tree there, what you're looking at right now is a bird called a white-breasted cormorant. And you might be able to see that it's sitting on a nest with a little chick in it, which is really awesome to see. It's actually 2 chicks that's sitting on it, looks like. And there are 4 of these dead trees in the water here, all with a few nests in. And that, like, crying sound you can hear is probably the chicks, like, almost begging for food from the parents. Now I'm going to point myself to the far right-hand tree, and the nest right at the top seems to have a tiny little baby in it, actually. Look at that little head sticking out. Can you see it? So there's a tiny little chick in there. Wow, that is so cool. Yeah, so these white-breasted cormorants that travel huge distances to go and feed on fish in some of their estuaries and lakes close to here. And that's probably where the partner is. Either the mother or the father of that little chick is probably out collecting food for the other adult and for that little chick. But often around water you find a lot of water birds, and if you look behind all the trees on the bank, there's a couple of big birds sitting there as well. There's a big white bird with a yellow beak, which is called a yellow-billed stork. And just to the right of that, you'll see walking towards the stork, there's a small little black and white bird, which is called a blacksmith lapwing. And then there's also 2 Egyptian geese just on the left of the stork. So a lot happening around the stork at the moment. And with it being winter, there aren't a huge amount of birds around. In summer, if you had to come here, especially on a hot day, wow, there would be a lot of birds around here. But it's really nice to see all these cormorants, and especially the little baby cormorants. That's the Egyptian geese making that sound. Sure, there's beautiful bird calls around here as well, actually. There's one white-breasted cormorant. I don't know, it's coming flying in here. It's probably going to land on one of these nests. Let's see where it goes. It'll be quite interesting to watch, because maybe it's got some fish from wherever it's been feeding, and it's coming to feed. So let's see where it goes. Here it comes. Okay, it looks like it's going to the left. Oh, look how excited the small ones are getting. Look at that. Let's see, you might see him open his mouth, and the chick put its mouth right inside the adult's mouth, and he'll end up regurgitating some food. Let's see what happens. Yeah, look at that. See how those chicks are begging from the adult. Jared, go ahead. Someone's calling me on the radio here. I wonder if they haven't found anything. Mr. V, you're asking if these nests are vulnerable to eagles. So they're in the middle of this water, there's not a lot that can get to it. Like a lot of snakes won't be able to get there. Obviously leopard and very opportunistic animals like that can't get there. So they're relatively safe, but things like eagle, especially around this water, there's a specific type of eagle called the African fish eagle, which does feed a lot on fish, but if they have the chance, they will try and catch young birds, young chicks. So yes, definitely they definitely are. It is possible that an eagle would take these young ones. Yes, this is really nice. I think we are going to carry on. I'm going to try and get hold of whoever it was trying to get hold of me on the radio, and let's see if they've managed to find something for us.
So we're just saying that these meerkats, compared to yesterday even, and the temperature today is kind of the same as yesterday. It's not very cold at all. It's chilly, but not bad. But they've been a lot more active, and a lot more of them. There were 5 of them out just now, which is a lot sooner than the same time yesterday. So I'm not going to kind of read too much into that. It could just be that they felt like getting up earlier or something. But maybe, just maybe, it's got something to do with little pups being close above ground, or, close to coming out. But I'm just speculating there. Don't hold me to that at all. But I'm really hoping that we're going to be getting some activity fairly soon. The reason I'm standing even further away now from them is the sun is still low in the sky, so my shadow is quite long. So I'm just trying to not cast my shadow onto them. Just adorable little things. And see how small their ears are. Things with ears, like the hearing is good, but when you don't have these nice big external pinna, or your earlobes, that it just becomes that much more challenging for directional sound. So if you look at things like kudu, rhino, giraffe, all your antelope species, they've all got these nice big, even lions, leopards, the bat-eared foxes that we've been seeing, things like that. I mean, they've got these massive ears, and it's just really, really, really good for being able to detect the finer sounds, but then also directional hearing is very, very good for them, very good on those different things. I think something like a bat-eared fox takes it to a new level, because, I mean, they actually, not just relying on their hearing to evade predators and that, but they're relying on their hearing to actually detect like insect life under the ground. I mean, how good your hearing's got to be to do that. It's a good thing I don't eat insects, because I wouldn't hear a thing. That one's watching Jandre there. Look, giving him the hairy eyeball. Jandre, did you just blow a kiss back at the meerkats? He did. He really, actually genuinely did. I think he's been out here too long. Bennett has asked, when the pups appear, will they go foraging? They won't go foraging to begin with. They'll still stick very, very, very close to the burrows over here. And in fact, they'll come out for very, very short periods of time, and then they'll go back underground again, come out, go back underground. So there'll be a lot of pup activity at the burrow itself, and a lot of play activity. And you remember we were saying a while back that play behavior is very, very geared towards survival techniques. So it's digging, chasing each other, catching each other, rolling around. So it's all geared towards either looking for prey or fighting, defense. So there'll be a lot of that, but it'll be a number of weeks before they actually move out with the adults foraging. In terms of the actual foraging for themselves, that's a couple of months away still. They've got to actually learn from the parents how to locate food, and then also in certain instances on more dangerous prey, things like, potentially dangerous, should I say, things like your bigger scorpions, how to actually kill a scorpion, get rid of that sting without being stung yourself. So these pups have got a long way ahead, and that's why I'm so excited about this, because what we are leading up to is this incredible adventure that we're going to be going on with these little pups. We've spent a substantial amount of time and energy watching these meerkats over the past 2 weeks now, and when these pups come out, it is just going to be the most mind-blowing experience on a lot of different levels, and that's why I think it's totally worth just sticking with us and not leaving them at any time. Anna Marie has just asked a question about their behavior in terms of hygiene and that, and she asked, do meerkats groom each other? That's called allo grooming, A-double-L-O, grooming. And yes, they do. They'll definitely do allo grooming, but not necessarily to the extent that some animals do it. But that social bonding of allo grooming is critical. So it's not just about keeping each other clean, but it's maintaining that social contact and transferring that scent from one to the other to keep that group cohesive.
Look at that big beast. Earlier on, he was flat on the side. It didn't look like anything can happen to make him move. But he got his motivation. Remember earlier I was saying that they were not with the pride for good 3 to 4 days, and there was just the two of them. He goes back to sleep as we speak. Then one of the lionesses got up next to where he was with few cubs, and they walked away. And he put his head up slightly, and he didn't trust the system. He's thinking to himself, I've got a full belly, but if I let these things out of my sight, they're going to disappear again for the next few days. And that means for him and his brother that without the females, the chances are that they're not going to eat anything. So he's going flat again. His concentration span with such a full belly is not going to last that long, but he's never going to go completely fast asleep to not hear what is going on, because after being away for 3 days, he was back for a night, and already he's had his meal that he's managed to take a lot of compared to everybody else. He's gonna try and keep an eye on this pride and stick with them for as much as he can and see if they can kill anything else for him again. As coming back to the situation of the cubs, you see how they all kind of back grouped up in the shady spot. Few of them are still nibbling on the skull, and the other one is also nibbling on the ribs still. We finally made it out by looking at the skull carefully. One of them carried the skull out of that thick bush where it was, and definitely was a zebra, because if it was a wildebeest as we thought because of the size earlier on, it would have had some horns, but the skull was brought up and one of the white cubs was walking around with it, so we definitely saw that there is no horns. And looking at the shape of the skull itself, it was definitely a zebra. So looking at, again, saying that it's about the size of the ribs, it didn't look like it was a fully grown zebra, but it was at least a sub-adult. It wasn't a baby. So maybe while we sit here and watch them finish up, there's a chance that we might be able to hear that maybe when those zebras get chased out, they might have managed to split them up so that they can catch the baby. So maybe we'll be able to hear them contact code the zebras calling to each other to regroup, and in particular if they're coming back down towards the water hole. See, some of the cubs are still moving around. It's into the ground, into each other. That is not much, but the fighting just never stops, eh? And majority of them now are just sleeping. And I think the only thing that can make, in particular, the males move is if these lionesses get up and move away slightly to go lie down somewhere. They're definitely gonna follow. And the two brothers looks like they've nicely strategized on this. The one brother is lying on the eastern side, and the other brother is lying completely on the southern side of them. So these two positions are nicely covered, that should they get up, one of them will be able to see this and they will be able to start following. So it looks like after when they were away from the pride, possibly didn't get to eat anything this whole time, they managed to think about things, and that's why it looks like they're strategizing now and trying to make sure that they don't get left behind again. And the young male is not here, but wherever he is, I think he's hoping hard that the pride can maybe move on and leave these two guys behind. Because without them, for him, it's easy. It's much bigger than the lionesses already. It's a little bit more powerful, although he's got a limp. But without these male lions, these lionesses won't be able to chase him off, even if they want to. I think they still want him around, though. So he will not be able to return back with these guys on a scene like that. So one wins and the other one loses. It's the nature of the game. Sounds like there are some big bones being broken down on the other side. It might be those rib bones that we were talking about earlier on. So if these lions had the strong jaws as the hyenas that they killed, I think all of those bones will be finished by now, because the hyenas would even only just try to take the flesh all over around. They will chew most of those bones completely, because they've got a jaw strong enough for that type of stuff. Christy, yes, the Rosemale do have other pride. The other pride that is at Ngala as well that we see with the Rosemales is the pride called the Breakaway Birmingham Pride, which initially was exactly the same pride as these Birmingham Lionesses here, but those are based more on the far southwest of our property. They also have young cubs roughly the same age, just over 2 years with these bigger cubs here. And they have been going in between the two prides a lot. The last time I saw the Rosemales with the Breakaway Birmingham was a while ago, which made us think that maybe there might be some males that are starting to challenge them coming from the west. However, when they were not with the pride for the last 3-4 days, the pride was mostly on the southeastern corner of the property. And we didn't know where the Rosemales were, but little do we know, maybe they could have gone all the way back up to the western side of the property. So yeah, they do have other prides, and I think they might have another pride on Wanyeleti's side.
These little guys are just still very, very relaxed, very alert, constantly on the lookout. I don't know if pest at about 100 yards distance. These meerkats were onto that eland like that. So, I mean, their eyesight is something exceptional. I'm just looking at some plants over here, but I'm waiting for them. The scraggly little thing growing where I am over here, you're going to see how beautiful it's going to be in a week's time. Maybe, a week's time. It's going to be absolutely stunning. But we'll chat about that. I'll keep that as a nice little secret for you. I love just like wandering around and looking at little things and that. This is like the outdoors is like a book, and you've actually just got to learn to read those signs. And we can chat about tracking a little bit as well. That it's so often people think tracking is some kind of like mysterious, like ethereal skill that these guys have, that, or people have, that they've just got this incredible way of finding things. And there's certain levels of skill that you can go through to get there. And yet every single person uses tracking every single day of their lives. Even if you're sitting at home, sitting on a couch with a cup of coffee, or wherever you are, you're actually using tracking skills without even realizing it. But we can chat about that going forward. There's some interesting concepts there. And again, me walking up and down, it's not because I'm bored, I've got nothing to do. I'm really just this constant movement up and down. It just gets these meerkats more and more and more relaxed. And remember, we were saying the one reason why we're doing this, apart from wanting to see the little ones, is that when the little ones come out, it's important that the adults are super relaxed in our presence, because that'll just mean that gets transferred to the youngsters as well. And if I was just sitting stationary in one spot the whole time, it'll work, but it's not ideal. And you can see occasionally they look at me, but they're not worried, they're not concerned, they're not trying to scamper away. Brian has just asked, are the meerkats as habituated with Gendre as they are with me? Absolutely. Gendre will sit there, they just don't even look at him. In fact, the other day, yes, it was the cutest thing. Not Gendre, but the meerkat. And Gendre was sitting there filming, and this meerkat walked right up to him, probably about a meter away in front of the camera, and not concerned with him or looking at him, trying to figure out, just digging, foraging. So, yeah, they totally relaxed like that. Well, there's one individual in this group that is quite wily and quite skittish. And that's actually the key one. I'm not worried about the alpha, the female, the dominant female, and these others. It's this one that for some reason he's just got this distrust, that he's I'm not quite sure about what's going on here. But this continual process of slowly approaching, talking, and again, it's not rapid movements. I'm not walking up and down fast. Any movements that we do, they're slow, they're controlled. I don't want to say refined. That's a little bit. And you can do this with anything. It can be a squirrel in a park. It can be a Izzy has asked the question, and it's a very good question again, and it was asked yesterday, and subsequent to my answering, we actually had a long discussion about it, Gendre, Veronique, and myself. Is the question that's just been asked is, how much does a meerkat eat in a day? Okay. And I said 5 to 6% of their body weight is a maintenance diet. In other words, and that's generally across the board. For an animal to survive, that's what you need. And that is correct, by the way. But when you start breaking it down, well, the argument is, well, that means I've got to eat 4 kilograms of XYZ per day or whatever. Okay? But remember, it's not just about, this is animals in the wild on their normal kind of diet. But when you look at people, because then people say, yeah, but that means I have to eat 4 or 5 kilograms a day, or depending how much you weigh, Some people a lot more, some people a lot less. But it's not just about that. It's about the energy value of those food items that you're eating. So meerkat that's going out at the moment, there's a lot of these. If they were eating scorpions all the time, and they love scorpions, if they can find a scorpion, that's like going down to the supermarket and buying a big tub of rum and raisin ice cream. That's just like what they love. But they're not getting scorpions all the time. At the moment, there's these tiny little grubs. I'll actually try and find one for you. Little beetle larvae that live in the sand in these little silken tubes. These are minuscule little packages. They have to eat stacks and stacks and stacks and probably hundreds of those in a day to get that energy requirement, because one of the other guys, we were chatting with him yesterday, he happened to be as well, Barry, and he was saying he's read that a meerkat can lose 5% of its body weight in a day in cold conditions through shivering and trying to keep warm and just their normal activity. So yeah, for them to eat 5% of their body weight a day, no problem. 5 to 6%. That would keep them alive, keep them going, enable them to breed. A female that's lactating like this one would probably be going through even more than that. But remember that energy that's coming in is getting burnt off as fast in terms of their small body size. They've got a very small surface area to body mass ratio, which means that they can lose heat very quickly, and heat is energy. If you take a climber that's going to go up Everest, okay, well, you can't exactly expect him to take 5 or 6% of his body weight, like in terms of volume per day, because that's not going to happen. Because, he'd probably get to base camp and say, well, I'm getting bored of this, I need to go down, because you can't carry that volume up there. So there's high energy foods in small packages, to keep the body going. So there's, when we say 5 to 6% of their body weight, we're talking about out here in nature where they're just going through a range of different food items within their dietary constraints. Yes, that was a long-winded answer for that question, but it's exciting, it's fun, it's interesting. And also, we've got jackals calling in the background. Yeah, it's like one of those iconic sounds of Africa. You will not be able to hear it. It's just too far away, but it's just got some birds calling here. It's just beautiful out here this morning. Darkseid has just said they love listening to me talk. Thank you very, very much. Consulting detective has asked, can I point out the alpha male and female meerkat? So the alpha female is actually down inside this burrow. It's actually completely out of sight of Genre's view at the moment. And then the alpha male is the one that's actually sitting closest to me on this side over here. So, and that's a that you raise. And I sort of briefly touched on it yesterday in terms of, we always traditionally think of, and we talk about, there's an alpha female in the group, and she's the matriarch, and she's the only one that has pups. And yet, as these group sizes expand, the likelihood of other females having pups and being allowed to have pups just starts increasing. And in really big groups of meerkats, and I'm talking about 30, 40 individuals, you can actually get a number of females that have pups at the same time. So that's just out of interest on that. But yeah, the alpha female is actually currently, I've just got a view of her hidden that's sticking out from the angle that I'm standing at over here. So she's below ground for Genre at the moment. I'm going to see if I can see you through the camera screen now. Hey everyone. Welcome to our world. I'm looking straight at you through the camera lens. Put that coffee down, and everyone look behind you, on the wall behind you. No, I'm just kidding. So, coming back to this little plant that I'm not going to show it, it's far away, but there's some really fun little things that are going to come out, even in the deepest points of winter. So, we've got some exciting stuff on the near horizon for you.
So see, that one line one of the Ross brothers is not too far from this dead hyena, and we're looking at this dead hyena on the neck. Like that looks like that's where most of the job was being done. And the two brothers looks like they're lying right in between the dead hyena and the rest of the pride. Although this hyena is already dead, but they might be feeling a little bit of protection sitting in between the pride and the hyena itself. Of course, they're also keeping an eye to make sure that these lions don't go anywhere. But every now and again, you see the one brother getting up and just looking over this way. It looks like we might be expecting this hyena to get up and run off. But yeah, looking at the puncture wounds on this hyena's neck, it looks like it was mostly the males that have done the job. Like, it's not small puncture wounds, there's seriously big wounds on the neck, and you can see the blood all over there. It looks like it was quite a small hyena, this one. The other one was much bigger than this. If you look at his legs, still looking dark, a little bit more fluffy. So this looks like it was an inexperienced hyena. So looking at where the two different carcasses are, you might find that the mother, the big one at the back, might be the one that got killed first, and this one didn't know what to do without mommy giving him instructions as to where to go and what to do. Unfortunately. Cam Hopper, will go straight, they'll open the carcass straight up, try and take as much of the meat as possible. So the fare, if they get a little bit of fare on the vulture side, it's not going to be a big deal. But when they're still trying to open, they're just going to keep on pecking until they find an area where it's going to open quite nicely. This particular hyena, I don't think the vultures are going to struggle. The wounds on the neck is where they're going to poke in from, and they're going to stuck their heads and their necks through and keep on pushing backwards. And the others might also start opening up from the other side. There is the other brother there, also facing on the right direction, just keeping an eye and making sure that everything is sorted still. And he's lying nicely on the sun there, enjoying this warm sun for now, but he's going to need to find a shady spot. He was in a much better spot earlier on shade-wise, but he happened to move in the sun. For whatever reason, we don't know, but I think it's just to block the lionesses from moving away from them that easily that way. Always hear the sounds of the hippos on the background. Sounds like they're also having a good time back there. Quite a big hippo that, eh? It looks like it's a mother and calf by the looks of things. The one is much, much bigger than the other one. Or it could be a male and a female as well. Quite difficult with hippos to actually see, because in particular in this waterhole, they're quite far off from where we are. Look at those oxpeckers standing there. So we all know oxpeckers are after ticks and ectoparasite in most of the bigger herbivores, but with the hippo it's a completely different story. So with the hippo, they're just using this hippo as a rock. You can see how the one is running right onto the side and taking a sip of water there. So as for the hippos, because at night when they're out and about busy grazing, the oxpeckers are sleeping then, so they're not really getting their help from the oxpeckers as far as taking off the ticks is concerned. But there is somebody special in the waterhole that does that for the hippo, which is the terrapin. Terrapin often move in and below and pluck the ticks off all the places, nice soft places of the hippo. And as a reward, in particular at this time of the year, to warm up, the terrapins will come and sit right on top of the hippo to reach the sun without worrying about being in the water. Talk about a symbiotic relationship right there between the two. Looks like all those oxpeckers have had their drink and they decided to move on to go find their host of the day where they're going to get the ticks. They've had their fair share of drinking water at the moment. And the hippo, as we hear their sound from earlier on, it doesn't look like they are going to be moving anywhere anytime soon. However, because it was so cold this morning, I think midday sometimes they might come out and just lie on the sandbank and just try to warm up a little bit. So we're gonna sit around a little bit more, go drive close to the river, see if we can find any fresh tracks of a leopard in that area or find some elephants, see what we can get for the day.
I'd also quite like to find some leopards this morning. We're on some pretty nice tracks, I'll tell you, of a leopardess, I think from last night sometime. I'm pretty sure they're tandies, don't know where they're going ultimately, but we've stopped to have a look at this giraffe to see if perhaps it is looking at a leopard or if it's just standing in the shade having a chew and a rest. And I think it is the latter. The morning has not warmed up at all. It is still pretty much the same temperature it was when we started the drive. And so I'm not really sure why this giraffe has decided to stand in the shade when it's quite so chilly. You were looking at some oxpeckers with the hippo earlier, and this giraffe has obviously got some oxpeckers, or an oxpecker on its horn and one on its cheek. I've often said I'd like my own oxpecker to aloe groom the top of my head from time to time. I think it must be quite nice and tickly. It just has to be a gentle oxpecker. But I'm sure that there must be an element of that to their tolerance of the oxpeckers, because I don't think that a giraffe's small brain is capable of looking long-term at the benefits of having the oxpecker on his head. I'm sure it actually feels quite nice, having their little claws massaging. That is, of course, unless there's a gaping wound, in which case it's very unpleasant. He really is in no mood to go anywhere, is he? I feel like BK and I should have parked in the sun, perhaps. BK's got some sun on him, is he okay? Beverly, a few things, but it's mainly a natural calcification or ossification of the skull, where what happens is that as the giraffe gets older, and this does look like a fairly old bull, the skull calcifies and deposits calcium and bone on top of the original skull, and it makes those bumps and humps that you can see going all the way down almost to his nose, and they'll grow around the bases of the ossicones as well, and those will eventually become uneven. And we saw one the other day that had so many different kinds of gnarls and bumps that one of the ossicones had actually tilted to the side and was growing out sideways. Or maybe not growing, but maybe just lying to the side. So it's just this natural ossification of the skull, deposits of bone that happens throughout a male giraffe's life. and I imagine it's to help them with their fighting. And in some respects may even be part of, or as a result of their fighting. As I may have mentioned to many of you before, the skulls of rugby players, professional rugby players, so guys who play, every week, week in, week out, lots of practices. I imagine it must be the same for gridiron football players, rugby league players. Their skulls are thicker than somebody who doesn't play rugby or football because of the constant bashing of the head. And so it does tend to thicken. That's not to say those people are thick at all. It just means that their skulls get slightly thicker. This giraffe's going to head off into the bush, and I'm going to see if I can find some leopard tracks.
Right, so we've got an animal that's quite creepy crawly. I think a lot of people will really enjoy this, and some might find it really weird. This is a millipede that I've found. It's really, really odd for it to be active at this time of year. I'm not really sure why it was on the road, but this millipede is on a mission, and I didn't want it to stay on the road. I wanted to move it off the road, but I thought it would be a good opportunity to show you, because this is quite a busy road. A lot of our vehicles drive on this road, and I didn't want this little millipede to get squashed. Well, it's not a little millipede, actually. It's a massive one. This is one of the largest ones I've ever seen. And if you can see all those amazing legs on this thing as it waves its way across my arm, I have to be very, very careful. I don't want it to fall. That's why I'm actually using my sleeves, because there's a lot for the millipede to grip onto. Has anyone else ever seen a millipede this big? This is a huge one. So this little thing is not dangerous to me in any way. This is a herbivore. They eat dead plant material and bits of grass. Ramona, it's giving you the heebie-jeebies. Absolutely, it's so weird. You should feel it walking on your skin. All these hundreds of little legs. That's why they're called millipedes, because milli is to do 1,000. I don't think they have 1,000 legs, but anything that has this many legs is always going to make you feel a little bit creepy. Oh, hey, how's it going? So I can see what it's doing with its little antenna is it's tasting everything as it walks over. So the antenna that you can see, oh, now it's coming this way. What do I do? Hyena, help me. This antenna are busy tasting everything that they can in order to see what is it that it's walking on. Is it something that they can eat? I'm not edible, little buddy. So something that's very similar is called a centipede, and they've got a lot fewer legs, and centipedes are quite venomous, and they do hunt and eat insects. So a centipede might give us a little bite, but this millipede is not dangerous at all. If you look very, very closely, you might see that each of these rings on the millipede's body has 2 pairs of legs. That's what also separates them from centipedes. Now, something very, very interesting about millipedes is, although they are not dangerous to me naturally, if I disturb this millipede and I cause it to become frightened, it might roll up into a ball or curl up into a spiral. Now, when they curl up into a spiral, that's one way of protecting themselves. If I get more aggressive with it, if I was a predator that wanted to eat it, like a civet, then it would actually start to secrete a cyanide-based poison, a toxic substance that for a small creature can be very, very toxic. Cyanide, some of you will know, is a very, very potent toxin that's very dangerous to humans. So this, when I'm finished with this millipede, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it in a clump of grass where it can be safe and away from prying eyes, nothing that might give it a little bit of a bite. Sassy Kathy has asked why millipedes need all these legs. Well, Sassy, I don't actually know why they need that many legs, to be honest. But As you can see, the way its body is shaped is very long and thin. If it didn't have this many legs, it might not be able to crawl and climb over things very easily because their body doesn't have muscles like a snake does. As you know, snakes don't have any legs. They use muscular contractions to get their body to move along. Because millipedes don't have muscles as such, they need all these legs with these little hooks and barbs in order to grip onto anything that they want to climb over. Okay, little guy. You are getting a little bit feisty. I don't know if you can see the front of his head there as it feeds. The eyes, well, millipedes don't really have eyes as such. They do have these little feelers at the antenna at the front here, which are helping it to taste its way around and get an idea of what's around it, but they don't have eyes, so they don't see like we can. They might see light and dark, potentially, very, very rudimentary eyes, but as far as I'm aware, they're almost completely blind. Wonderful. So what I'm going to do is just going to leave this millipede. You guys can enjoy this little guy, and I'm going to, when you're finished, put him away where he can be safe.
So I think these little meerkats are fairly close to moving or foraging. So we're going to stay stationary. We're not going to move around. I'm not even going to walk around in that direction, because it'll be really fun if we can actually see them moving off one at a time, one at a time, one at a time. And interestingly, they went in that direction yesterday as well, I think. And they'll utilize a particular area, for a couple of days. And sometimes you get these scorpions. I wouldn't say they're in colonies, but you can get an area that's got a higher density of scorpions. And that could be for whatever reason, it could be like firmer sand or... and then the meerkats could work that area as an example for a couple of days and then move through to a different area, but always radiating out from the same burrow system. Yes, this is the toughest point for them. When they're sitting at this super safe environment, well, obviously within the relatively safe, should I rather say. They're right at their burrow system over here. These holes are right, literally, they could just dash down there in a millisecond and they're gone. But as they move away, they've got to go through these big open areas. You've got these bush clumps. It doesn't matter how good their eyesight is, you could get something hiding in one of these bush clumps. And that is the law of the wild, eh? It's just, they're out there. Anything could happen at any stage. Oh, look at all the ant-eating chats popping in now. That's interesting, eh? Carmen, you've asked a very good question there. Will the mother leave the baby meerkats out of the den? She won't do that at all. What they always do whenever she leaves, because she can't stay behind and babysit them the whole time. Otherwise, she'll start losing energy. And remember, she needs that energy to be able to produce milk for the pups, for the babies. So she needs to go foraging. But what she does, they always leave one of the group behind as a babysitter. So that little babysitter will just keep an eye on those pups, because they're going to be so tiny when they come out. When the mother and the others move off, those pups are almost certainly just going to stay underground, and they'll only come out when the other adults and the mother is back again. But that babysitter will be with them the whole time, so the mother won't leave them unattended. Yes, these ant-eating chats are moving closer to us. We're not going to go onto them, but they're just flitting around here. Kiki, also a good question there. Do meerkats forage in a pack? They move as a group. Look at this ant-eating chat right in front of Jandre, right here. This is amazing to watch. Look at that. That bird is like about 2 meters in front of him. Oh, there we go. Yeah, so Kiki, they will forage in a pack, but they won't catch prey items in a pack. So they won't, in terms of, if you look at a group of wild dogs, they'll chase something and they'll all of meerkat, something like that, then they will mob them as a group. So like that, but not in terms of foraging. So each meerkat forages, they move out in a group, but it forages individually. So this one will dig up its scorpion that it's found. That one will dig up its little beetle larva. Yeah, this one might find a gecko. So there'll be no cohesive attack on an individual prey item to catch it. Yeah, I think these little meerkats are very close to moving off. Warren Chief has just asked, can a meerkat still stand up if its tail is deformed or damaged, bitten off, broken off? Yeah, they can. I've seen them doing that. I think it would just be marginally more difficult, but I think there would be absolutely no issues in the long run with doing that. The tail is important as a prop, but when you see them climbing, when they're doing sentry duty, when the group is out foraging, they'll sometimes do sentry duty where they actually climb into bushes and trees, and sometimes these are really scraggly little things. And then the tail is actually not helping them a huge amount. I mean, it does to an extent, but not a huge amount. And remember, these tails are not prehensile. In other words, when they're climbing up a bush, doesn't matter how flimsy or how strong it is, to do sentry duty, they actually cannot use that tail in a prehensile manner to try hold on to any of those stems and that. And yet, they do it very successfully by standing up in these bushes. So I think they'd be absolutely fine, even if the tail was bitten off or damaged in some way.
Hello, and as you can see, we are pointing the camera straight at a tree. This tree here is called This tree here is called a lila palm, which is a really interesting little tree. And what I've done is I've cut 2 strips of one of the leaves. So the leaves look a little something like this, and I've cut them and I've split them around this little root here. And we're going to make something. When the day is quiet and there's not too many animals around, this is the best thing to do. Now this is especially for the kids that are... Let's hope that I know how to do it well enough. So especially when the wind is starting to get hotter, obviously the wind is starting. And there's something fun we can make out of this tree for while we're driving on a windy day. Let's hope it works. Good. Looking good. Okay, there we go. Look at that. So far, it looks... Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the tops off of these leaves quickly. And make it into like a blade shape. So we'll do them maybe about that long. So apparently our signal in this spot isn't that great. We Meerkat.
relaxing at the burrow there. No big changes. Every day is a day closer. That's what I say. And that's the little alpha that's standing up on that one that's standing up on the top of that burrow entrance over there. So she's normally the one that's going to lead them out in the direction that they go. I've been scanning the springbuck in the far distance, but I'm not seeing any other obvious signs. There's certainly no signs of raptors. And the sign of a raptor is what's going to really trigger these guys to start alarming, and that'll actually probably, if they do see a large raptor like a goshawk, a pale chanting goshawk or an eagle, that'll actually keep them at the burrows quite a bit longer until that threat moves off. But at least most of these raptors, they can generally see them from some distance away. It's these things like African wildcats and caracal that are ridiculously sneaky little animals. And they'll just hide in these bush clumps and that, and the meerkat won't see them until they're like right there. And if you get caught in the open, it's just a hop, skip and a pounce, and you've become dinner. On that happy note. But that's the way life goes, eh? Megan has asked, are those the dark patches around the eyes, like the kind of sunglasses? It's a good question, and that is the accepted theory that really reduces glare on them. But then you get these like anomalies, these like weird little things. If you look at something like, let's say, a sengi. We were looking at a little bushveld elephant shrew, or a bushveld sengi, a couple of days ago, or a week or so ago. I'm losing track of time. So that little animal is nocturnal and diurnal. They're very, very active during the day as well. And they've got bright white circles around their eyes. So, if you've got an animal that is strictly diurnal and they've got dark patches around the eyes, well, then it makes total sense. But then what about these things like that, where you say, well, actually, here's an animal that's active during the day, but it's got these bright white circles around the eyes. So, yeah, I think that would be a really interesting line of research going forward, and it would also challenge just traditionally accepted views of coloration on animals and what it means. So I think there's still some good potential for work in those areas.
Okay, so sorry about those issues just now, but all I did was just cut these little angles on each of the little propellers. The last thing we have to do is get a big thorn off of, out here there's loads of thorn trees. So we get a little thorn and we stick that in the back, just like that. And we are ready to go. Should we test and see if it works? Hopefully. This is going to be very embarrassing if it doesn't work, that's for sure. But let's see. So watch this. When we drive and it's a bit windy and we get wind blowing into this, it should, hopefully, start spinning. I made a backup one earlier just in case. Okay, watch this. Oh, wait, sorry. Okay, let's see. Hey, look at it go. It's spinning like mad at the moment, and we're only driving slowly. We're driving like 10 k's an hour. Oh, both at the same time. Whoa, look at that. Good times. Anyway, as I say, we are battling to find lions and things this morning. So now we have fun with trees instead. I was saying earlier when we were at the last place where we left the lions last night, I was saying there's maybe a chance they've come up towards our airstrip. This is now the second time we're checking the airstrip, but no luck yet. We are having a look around to see if there's any rhinos around, or pretty much anything at the moment. I'm so happy this worked. I would have been very embarrassed if I did all of that and it just didn't spin. And you can probably even do this with like that very thin cardboard, if you had to cut it into strips, and then maybe use like a pencil or even a thorn if you've got thorn trees in your back garden, and you can make your own little fan and run around the garden with it, or put it out the window while your parents are driving to the shops. We are going to just do a bit of a big loop around that side, go out towards the riverbed, see if there's anything along the river, and we'll leave you to carry on with your safari.
We have come to the waterhole where there are some hippopotamuses, sorry, I can't say that, hippopotamuses, and some grebes swimming around with the hippopotamuses. Quite a windy day, strange sort of wind coming out of the east, northeast, which is very strange. Just thought we'd come up and see if anything had come down to drink, or maybe there was a mystery pride of lions lurking around here. You never know. But we've got a nice pod of hippopotamuses instead. All of which I'm sure are enjoying the relative warmth of the water. Oh, that's nice. A little bit of playing. No, Butterfly, it's not a nice day for a swim as far as you and I are concerned, on account of the fact that it's pretty cold. So if you and I were to put on our bathing suits or costumes and jump into the water, I think it would be fairly miserable. It looks like a nice day for a swim, but it's one of those sort of crisply cold days where swimming is not an activity that comes to mind immediately. Especially when you see the wind rippling across the surface of the water. You know it would knife into you if you got out of the water wet. Not that it's possible to get out of the water dry, of course. I guess because, Sassy Cassie, the hippo doesn't feel any threat from the grebe. It would definitely attack the grebe if it felt a sense of fear or threat, but the grebe really is not something that the hippo has to worry about. Lauren had a sighting the other day of a grebe sitting on top of a hippo's head, so there is not an animosity, they're friends. And it's just simply because they don't compete for resources. A grebe cannot separate a hippo from the water. They don't fight over food. So there is no point wasting energy having a fight. Oh, they don't eat each other also. And so there's no point in wasting their energy making enemies. So many things out here are about energy balance and conserving energy, and hippos specifically geared towards reducing the amount of energy it uses. And making enemies of something like a grebe just doesn't make a whole lot of energetic sense. I wonder if also the grebes don't hang around the hippos because, rather like with drongos, hippos probably kick up a lot of sort of water invertebrates when they move around in the mud, and the grebes probably then hunt those. I think it's Reby or something like that. The reason that hippos don't feel the cold in the water is the same reason that seals and dolphins and whales don't feel the cold in the water. They have coverings of insulation. This is not particularly freezing water. It's probably around about 15 or 16 degrees, which would be cold for a human being. It may even be warmer than that, but it's certainly not very cold for an aquatic animal. And they've just got a very thick coating of blubber that stops them getting cold, that insulates them. I mean, there are mammals that survive in utterly frigid waters, close to zero at the poles. Douglas, what an interesting question. Same way that you know how to breathe when you're sleeping, Douglas. Your breathing is not conscious. It happens through the autonomous nervous system. So if you were to just sit down, unless I say to you, now that I've mentioned it, you probably are concentrating on your breathing. But most of the time, when you're asleep and, in fact, when you're awake, your body is breathing automatically. And it's the same thing with a hippo. A hippo goes down, sleeps a bit, starts to run out of air, and then pops up and breathes up, and then sinks down again, and then slowly it'll run out of air, and automatically it'll just lift its head, stick its nose out of the water and breathe, and then put its head down again. So I think it's an entirely automatic response, and I think it's probably born of a decrease in oxygen in the blood. So as there's a lovely terrapin there having a nice little rest. So as the oxygen decreases in the body, so the hippo's automatic nervous system tells it to lift its head out of the water, have a little breathe, and then it can sink down again. It's exactly the same way as human breathing works.
Who knows what this is? Something quite small, maybe only about 50 kilograms. Anyone? Maybe that large animal moving around to the left of it will give you an idea. That is a tiny, tiny, tiny elephant calf. How peaceful. It's actually asleep at the base of this tree. Its mother is busy breaking up this sickle bush to get to some of the grasses and the roots at the base of it. And the baby has decided that this is far too much activity and it's time to sleep. And as you were talking about hippos in the water and the water being very cold, this baby elephant is probably really enjoying sleeping in the sun, warming up after what was an incredibly cold morning. I'm still wearing my fleece. It's cold. It feels very, very safe with its mother watching over it. In fact, as we came round this corner, it was quite a sharp corner, and we came quite close to them, and they didn't realize they were here. And the mum just raised her head up and opened her ears to say, "Hold on, my baby's here." And so we stopped. We gave them a bit of space. Now she's calmed right down, and you can see she's starting to dust bathe. She's clearly quite comfortable in our presence. She doesn't mind us now. She's even leaving her baby asleep underneath the bush to go and continue feeding. That youngster is so small that it's still suckling, it's still drinking milk. So the mother, this larger elephant, has to feed as much as she can to provide all the nutritious milk that that baby needs. You know, milk is very important for its growing bones, and it's got a lot of growing to do, that's for sure. And you can start to see those ears just flapping gently because it's starting to warm up. So she's been in the sun a lot longer than the baby. The baby has been using her shade quite often. So she's just flapping her ears now to get a bit of cool air. You can see that, she's scratching her ear. Elephants often scratch inside their ears. You know, she saw her dust bathing a second ago. And then sometimes she will throw dust behind her ears or in her ears by accident. She'll just have a little bit of a scratch there to clear it out. Watch this, she's going to use her tusk. She's putting the branch in her mouth. She can't break it off with her trunk. So now she's going to just chew it straight there. If you look at her tusk, her left tusk actually has a notch in it. Striped Horse has asked if baby elephants sleep more than adult elephants. Yes, I suppose they probably do. They can afford to sleep a lot more because they stay with the mother looks after them, they just have to drink the milk. So yes, when they're doing a lot of growing, I was always told that you do all your growing when you're asleep. So I guess since this elephant's got a lot of growing to do, it's going to sleep a lot. Certainly we see elephants sleeping sometimes, very rarely sleeping on the ground, curled up in a ball like this baby. But certainly standing up, they'll sleep and snooze, sometimes lie on a termite mound. But never for very, very long, maybe a couple of hours at the most before they get up and move along. So, yes, I think they do probably sleep more than the parents. Those little legs got to carry them much further than the big, long legs of the elephants, of their parents. So I guess, they've got a lot of energy to catch up on. So as I was talking about the notch on that elephant's tusk, so I don't know if we'll be able to see it now, it's behind some bushes, but what often happens is they develop tendencies of being either left-handed or right-handed. So you can just see the notch on that elephant's tusk there. So this elephant is often using the left tusk to break branches and grass. And you can actually see that it's developed a notch. So this is a left-handed or left-trunked elephant. Sometimes you'll even see them curling the tusk. My goodness, I'm getting tongue-tied. They sometimes curl the trunk the same way each and every time, which tells you also that they are left or right-handed, I suppose. It's actually really nice to see. I haven't seen an elephant here on Pride Lands yet which had such a prominent notch on its tusk. It's interesting because the right tusk is actually shorter, so maybe it uses both. Maybe it's ambidextrous, an ambidextrous elephant. Try and say that very fast, 5 times in a row. I'm not going to try it, actually. I'll definitely get tongue-tied then. It's a lovely, peaceful scene. You can still see on the bottom of your screen there on the right-hand side that baby curled up. Actually looks like a rock. That's perfect camouflage. These elephants will be very, very protective if anything comes along that threatens them. So if the lions or a leopard in this rocky area happened to stumble upon this baby, it would definitely be vulnerable. But the mother's very, very vigilant. She won't wander too far from where her baby is to make sure that it's safe all the time. And of course, they've got those huge ears, so they can always hear if there's anything coming. Second chance crossing, you've asked if there are any albino elephants or albino elephants. Certainly, we've probably seen, so I've never seen one, but there's that, I think I've seen on TV that there are some albino elephants that are born. It would make sense. I mean, there are melanistic, which are dark versions of many animals, and there are leucistic, which are light versions of many animals, and there are albino animals. So I would not think that elephants would be would not have albino offspring, but they've got a lot of surface area on their body, and albinism means that you don't have any melanin in your skin, which protects you from the sun. So I suppose any baby elephants that are born with albinism wouldn't survive very long, I don't think, in nature because of the harsh sun. Let's just watch and see what this little baby does over the next little while.
And these little meerkats are still here, still at the burrow. They haven't moved out foraging yet. I think this is just a great indication of just how good their foraging is currently. The moment they're nutritionally stressed, they're going to start putting in more and more and more effort over a longer period to try to get enough food to eat. And what we're seeing here, the fact that they are not moving out in any rush every single morning, and even when we're not around, it's only Veronique, the meerkat habituator, that's confirmed as well that it's not that we are having any impact on these animals. It's just they're obviously getting plenty to eat, which is really, really good and encouraging from the perspective of the fact that they have these pups underground here. Vicky's just asked, if they catch a lot one day, will they forage the next day? Yes, they will. Because they are such small animals, they can lose heat very, very quickly. With the wind and just their normal activity outside. So they just need to keep on building that energy. And also remember, they can't store food, or they don't. It's not in their habit. So you get something that catch a larger prey item like the leopards. They'll catch something, they can feed on that for 3-4 days at a time. A lion pride that catches a buffalo, they could feed on that carcass for days as well. You get things like squirrels that can actually cache nuts as well. Meerkats don't do that, so they actually have to forage every single day. The only times that I have seen them doing it occasionally is if it's bitterly cold, strong winds, very, 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 very cold weather. In times like that, then they have stayed underground the entire day and not gone out, because then it's just they and again, it's probably not a conscious decision. Like, they're not sitting there doing the maths like, okay, if I manage to get out X amount of calories from my food, I'll be able to make this up. They're not doing that. It's just that those weather conditions are just not conducive, and they're just going to lose so much energy. They just stay underground. But then the following days will be absolutely critical. And if you've got a female that's lactating, in other words, she's got pups, she's supplying them with milk, days like that can be very, very, very bad news if you've got little ones around. But I don't want to jinx it, but what I'm seeing here so far, I'm very optimistic that these pups are going to be fine. Again, remember, I'm not saying that they're going to grow up and live happily ever after. I'd love to say that, but the reality out here, I mean, you get a huge amount of attrition on these little pups. And if she has 4 or 5 youngsters, to get 2 of them to adulthood or to the end of their first year, she'll be doing well. Interesting, when they got up in near the center burrows, and then they moved across to the burrows right on the eastern side of the section. They did a bit of burrow maintenance there, then they moved back this way. So they're actually maintaining this whole burrow system. And Veronique suggested that it could well be to do with wanting to move those pups at some stage, and in order to do that, even within the same burrow system, so from hole to hole within that same system, and in order for them to do that, they'd really want to make sure that these holes are ready, that the pups don't come out and then they have to suddenly move them. So keeping this entire burrow system in good and ready order is pretty important for these little guys. Well, not pretty important, it's critical to their survival. I mean, that's the long and the short of it. Again, that alpha female is just constantly grooming, eh? Sorry, I just had a bit of wind breakup on my mic over here. Sorry, what was the question? I got the name is Angie asked a question. Ooh, yeah. Yeah. So Angie, the question that Angie asked was, do meerkats kill and eat snakes? Yes, they do. But, you know, we have this, again, this romantic idea of old Rikki Tikki Tavi, you know, of Rudyard Kipling fame, going around and killing snakes. They are capable of doing that, but it's not typical for them to do that. The snakes that they'll be up against in this environment can be extremely dangerous and large. Some of you may have seen these Cape Cobras, you know, that we've spent a little bit of time with over the past couple of weeks. These are super aggressive, incredibly venomous snakes. The other ones here that we started off with a couple of weeks ago when they were still active are the puff adders. It's a kind of viper. Also, you know, these are big, tough, slow-moving snakes, but they'll predate on even on adult meerkats occasionally, but normally more so on the pups. And then in this area, and I've been hoping to find him, but I haven't seen any signs recently, there's a big Natal python, or what you call an African rock python. So meerkats will normally try to deter these snakes, but it's seldom that they'll actually kill and eat these very big ones. But certainly smaller ones, they will do that, definitely.
WildEarth relies on support from viewers like you to carry on broadcasting our daily live shows. A small donation goes a long way in helping us on our mission to connect the world with nature. Please visit our support page to see how you can help and become part of the WildEarth family.
So we just came across the road now, or driving around just to see what we can find so long. See these marks on the ground? These are drag marks. It looks like something has been dragged here. It looks like maybe an impala or something small like a duiker. It's quite late in the show now for us to be able to track and find this thing. It might take a while. Tracking session take some time sometimes. So what we're going to do, this will be a great place for us to start for our afternoon drive and see if we can come right. Maybe there will still be, a leopard will still be in this carcass, or hyenas will have stolen it, but we'll find out later and keep you updated.
Okay, so we've got, the elephants are still here. I'm just going to, they moved out of the thickets, and we just had to move away a little bit because the mama didn't want us to get too close. So we've just made a bit of a space, but you might still just be able to see that tiny, tiny little baby. Look how close the mother's standing to her. And look how small she is compared to the mother. You see, she doesn't even stand up to the mother's shoulder. So I don't want to move the car. Unfortunately, I know the view is not great, but if I move the car, we might disturb them. And the little baby just woke up, and I don't want to frighten it. It's probably still waking. I know, you know, when you wake up and you don't really know what's going on. I think that's kind of where this little baby is right now. But look how tiny it is. Look at its little trunk. It's so tiny, so small. It's a little wrinkly. It looks so sleepy still. You see how it's standing with its eyes down like that. It's probably going to fall over in a moment. You know, sometimes when I see baby elephants like this, it just makes my heart melt. it's great to see, though. It's great to see the next generation of elephants so well looked after by their mamas. There's another youngster in this group that we saw earlier. Oh, can't keep my legs. Gonna fall over. And there it goes again. That is sweet. There's a question from Samantha about which elephant is bigger and stronger, the Asian or African elephants. So African elephants are definitely a lot larger than Asian elephants, taller, heavier, and longer. So definitely they are much larger and stronger. However, they are also a lot more wild and free-spirited, can I put it that way? If you know, a lot of elephants in Asia are used in many different ways to help with building roads and doing all sorts of other things in those rural areas. So elephants have become really part of the societies in Asia. So definitely African elephants are larger and stronger, but Asian elephants tend to be much more, how can I say, calm-natured and able to help people with all sorts of different things. African elephants have never been tamed as such. They're just maybe a bit too large and a bit too powerful. So we've got another young male elephant here in front of us now, also just standing in front of us between the mama and the baby. This one's actually only got one tusk. I wonder if he broke it playing with another elephant.
So, if anything I do, of all things, at least I'm consistent and consistently wrong in getting when these meerkats are going to go foraging, because I keep saying, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Well, maybe I just need to learn to count a little bit better or look at a watch more accurately, because they are still here. And I think an hour ago I was saying they're probably going to go foraging quite soon. I'm not complaining, at least we're watching them. See, they're keeping their eye on something down here as well. There are the anteating chats flitting around. A shrike just came past, which got their attention as well. But I think they are going to go foraging soon, so it'll be interesting to see what time they get back this afternoon. We won't be here, but our Meerkat habituator will. But this is so exciting, this journey that we're on with them. And I'm really excited to be able to share this with you in terms of the pups and how they grow and how they develop. And again, it's, I'm not going to pull our punches here. I think there are probably going to be some sad moments as well. But that's all part of it. It's nature. It's what happens out here. We're not going to interfere with them in any way. And it's just exciting to watch how it'll develop and play out over the coming weeks. But the African bush, and not just here, any wilderness place, is a very, very, very special environment and something to be treasured and appreciated. And we're going to continue doing our best to share this with you. So those of you, whoever you are, wherever you are in the world, whatever you're up to, just stay safe, stay warm, and keep joining us. We'll be on again this afternoon, and have an amazing day further from all of us. Thank you.